Hello everyone, welcome back to Legal Vision. Today's video examines one of the most talked about incidents in recent Indian public life. The chaos during Lionel Messi's visit to Kolkata, the public apology issued by the Chief Minister of West Bengal, and the deeper legal and governance questions that this episode raises. This is not merely a story about football fans being disappointed. It is a serious case study on how global icons are managed, how public safety obligations operate, and how the law responds when administration fails at a mass public event. Lionel Messi's India tour in December 2025 was a major international event. It was planned as a multi-city visit covering Kolkata, Hyderabad, Mumbai, and Delhi, combining fan interactions, promotional appearances, and symbolic sporting diplomacy. For Kolkata, a city with a deep and historic football culture, Messi's visit carried extraordinary emotional significance. The event was widely publicized, tickets were sold at high prices, and political leaders publicly associated themselves with the occasion, creating enormous public expectations. When such expectations are raised by both private organizers and public authorities, they also create corresponding duties of care. What unfolded at Salt Lake Stadium, however, exposed a serious collapse of planning and execution. Messi's appearance was extremely brief, and large sections of the paying audience were unable to see him at all. The movement of VIPs and officials around the player blocked sightlines for ordinary spectators, leading to frustration and anger. As crowd emotions intensified, vandalism followed. Stadium property was damaged, objects were thrown, and police forces struggled to regain control, eventually deploying riot control measures. The incident transformed a celebratory sporting event into a scene of disorder and embarrassment that attracted national and international attention. The seriousness of the episode was reflected in the reaction of the West Bengal governor, who described the incident as a, quote, systemic failure. This description is legally and politically important because it recognizes that the problem was not limited to a single private organizer but involved failures across administrative, policing, and regulatory levels. An FIR was registered, and the main organizer was arrested, indicating that the state acknowledged that criminal and administrative responsibility could not be avoided. Amid growing criticism, the Chief Minister of West Bengal issued a public apology to Lionel Messi and to the fans. She stated that she was deeply disturbed and shocked by what had happened, and announced a high-level inquiry headed by a retired judge to identify lapses and fix responsibility. A public apology by a sitting chief minister in such circumstances is significant. Politically, it reflects damage control and acknowledgement of public anger. Legally, it strengthens the perception of administrative failure and forms part of the public record that may be relevant in future legal proceedings or claims. From a legal standpoint, this incident engages criminal, civil, and constitutional liability. Under criminal law, negligence does not require intent. Reckless disregard for public safety obligations is sufficient. Where organizers fail to comply with conditions relating to crowd capacity, safety measures, and police permissions, offenses related to endangering life and disobedience of lawful orders may arise. The scale of the mismanagement at Salt Lake Stadium makes criminal scrutiny not only possible but necessary. Civil liability also arises in the form of consumer protection and contractual obligations. Fans who purchased tickets did so on the basis of representations regarding access, visibility, and safety. When these expectations are fundamentally defeated, it may amount to deficiency of service and unfair trade practice. Claims for refunds, compensation for mental harassment, and collective consumer actions are legally conceivable, particularly where premium pricing was involved and the promised experience was not delivered. More importantly, the incident raises serious questions of state responsibility under public law. When an event is conducted with state permissions, relies on public police forces for security, and is publicly endorsed by political authorities, the government cannot completely distance itself by blaming private organizers alone. Indian constitutional jurisprudence recognizes that the state has a positive obligation to protect life and personal liberty. Administrative negligence that results in foreseeable harm can attract public law compensation, even in the absence of specific intent. The role of the police and civil administration is central in this analysis. Permissions for large gatherings are granted subject to strict conditions relating to crowd size, entry and exit routes, emergency planning, and VIP movement. If these conditions were inadequately enforced or ignored, it reflects a failure of supervision and potential dereliction of duty. This is why the demand for a judicial or quasi-judicial inquiry is not merely symbolic but legally justified. When we compare the Kolkata episode with Messi's global appearances, the contrast becomes striking. In countries such as Japan, the United States, and members of the European Union, appearances by global sports icons are governed by highly structured contractual frameworks. Crowd access is carefully regulated, political visibility is minimal, and expectations are clearly managed. For instance, during Messi's appearances in the United States under Major League Soccer, fan engagement events are tightly controlled, with clear disclaimers about access and duration. In Japan, preseason tours involving global football stars follow strict crowd discipline norms, with organizers prioritizing safety over spectacle. In Saudi Arabia, where Messi has appeared as a tourism ambassador, events are meticulously planned with clear separation between VIP engagement and public viewing. These global examples demonstrate that the success of such events depends not on symbolism, but on professionalism, contractual clarity, and institutional discipline. The Kolkata incident illustrates the risks of allowing political optics and publicity to override logistical realities and legal obligations. The future consequences of this episode are likely to extend well beyond West Bengal. Authorities across India may impose stricter conditions on permissions for large public events, increasing scrutiny and compliance requirements. Organizers may be required to furnish higher insurance guarantees and accept clearer contractual liability. Courts may intervene to lay down binding guidelines on crowd management, safety standards, and accountability at mass gatherings, much as they have done in the past following stampedes and public disasters. International celebrities and their management teams may also demand stronger contractual safeguards and explicit governmental assurances before agreeing to future engagements in India. Ultimately, the Messi Kolkata episode is not just a moment of embarrassment or fan outrage. It is a reminder that governance failures carry legal consequences and that public trust is fragile. Apologies and inquiries are necessary first steps, but their real value lies in whether they lead to structural reform and institutional accountability rather than symbolic closure. If India wishes to position itself as a credible host for global sporting and cultural events, this incident must serve as a lesson in law, governance, and responsibility. If you found this discussion insightful, subscribe to Legal Vision for more in-depth analyses connecting current events with law and global governance. Let me know in the comments whether you believe the state should bear legal responsibility when politically endorsed public events fail. Until next time, keep seeing the world through a legal lens.